Oh, howdy. You're here. I didn't hear you come in. Glad to see you. I believe it's time to set some of this aside for a moment. I was thinking back to whenever I was a lad myself. I loved to read. I would have given anything to have all these books. Of course, I probably couldn't have read all of them at that young age. But I've always loved to read. To me, I said at that time, a friend is someone who can get me a book I ain't read yet. Hang on. Y'all know about Aesop's Fables, right? Aesop, he was a man who lived many, many years ago. And of course, he's no longer among us. But we still have his stories. He would tell us short stories, little bitty stories, oftentimes with animals in them, and they would be in odd situations. And then they would work their way out of the situation somehow, and then he would have a moral or a reason for telling us the story at the end of it. Even though somebody has been gone a long time, we can still learn from them. Isn't that nice? Anyway, here's one. It's called the Wolf and the House Dog. The Wolf and the House Dog. There was once a wolf who got very little to eat because the dogs of the village were so wide awake and watchful. He was really nothing but skin and bones, and it made him very downhearted to think of it. One night this wolf happened to fall in with a fine, fat house dog who had wandered a little too far from home. The wolf would gladly have eaten him then and there, but the house dog looked strong enough to leave his mark should he try it. So the wolf spoke very humbly to the dog, complimenting him on his fine appearance. "You can be as well fed as I am if you want to," replied the dog. "Leave the woods. There you live miserably. Why, you have to fight hard for every bite you get. Follow my example and you will get along beautifully." "What must I do?" asked the wolf. "Hardly anything," answered the house dog. "Chase people who carry canes, bark at beggars, and fawn on the people of the house. In return, you will get tidbits of every kind, chicken bones, choice bits of meat, sugar, cake, and much more beside, not to speak of kind words and caresses." The wolf had such a beautiful vision of his coming happiness that he almost wept. But just then, he noticed that the hair on the dog's neck was worn and the skin was chafed. "What is that on your neck?" "Nothing at all," replied the dog. "What? Nothing? Oh, just a trifle." "But please tell me." The dog says, "Perhaps you see the mark of the collar to which my chain is fastened." "What? A chain?" cried the wolf. "Don't you go wherever you please?" "Not always. But what's the difference?" replied the dog. "All the difference in the world. I don't care a rap for your feasts, and I wouldn't take all the tender young lambs in the world at that price." And away ran the wolf to the woods. And as I said, then Mr. Aesop would leave at the end a moral, an explanation, telling us why this story is so important, something for us to remember. He says, "There is nothing worth so much as liberty." Something very important for us to remember. Sometimes somebody might offer us something, and we're going to have to give away a little bit. We may have to give up more liberty at that time than we realize. We need to be aware of these things. Wonder what else is in here. There was one about the fox and the grapes. Some of you have heard of this, no doubt. Let's see. Is it in the fox and the grapes? Y'all haven't seen Tad around here, have you? It's uncommonly quiet, which leaves the father to wonder. It's almost not wondering, it's almost a dead certainty that he's up to something. I'll find out soon enough, I reckon. Anyway, the fox and the grapes. A fox one day spied a beautiful bunch of ripe grapes hanging from a vine trained along the branches of a tree. The grapes seemed ready to burst with juice, and the fox's mouth watered as he gazed longingly at them. The bunch hung from a high branch, and the fox had to jump for it. The first time he jumped, he missed it by a long way. So he walked off a short distance and took a running leap at it, only to fall short once more. Again and again he tried, but in vain. Now he sat down and looked at the grapes in disgust. "What a fool I am," he said. "Here I am wearing myself out to get a bunch of sour grapes that are not worth gaping for." And off he walked, very, very scornfully. How did he know them grapes was sour? You know, he wouldn't have been jumping for them if he thought they was sour, would he? He only thought they was sour once he realized he couldn't get them. Aesop tells us at the end, he has the moral. There are many who pretend to despise and belittle that which is beyond their reach. So if you hear somebody talking about sour grapes, that's the sort of thing they're talking about. Somebody who has despaired of getting something good and decided to speak low about it. There's one about, another one about a dog. Where is it? Here it is. The dog in the manger. Y'all know what a manger is, right? A manger, it's like a feed trough or a feed bunk where you put hay or other things in for cattle and horses and such to eat. The dog in the manger. A dog asleep in a manger filled with hay was awakened by the cattle, which came in tired and hungry from working in the field. But the dog would not let them get near the manger, and snarled and snapped as if it were filled with the best of meat and bones, all for himself. The cattle looked at the dog in disgust. "How selfish he is," said one. "He cannot eat the hay, and yet he will not let us eat it who are so hungry for it." Now the farmer came in. When he saw how the dog was acting, he seized a stick and drove him out of the stable with many a blow for his selfish behavior. Have you ever heard somebody be called a dog in the manger? We ought not to be a dog in the manger. And Aesop tells us at the bottom the moral. Do not grudge others what you cannot enjoy yourself. Well, I suppose I have been at this quite long enough, and you all probably do have some place to get off to. So I shall return to my work. Thank you all for stopping by. It's good to see you.